Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, this podcast is for you. Recruiting is a battlefield where the rules keep changing and the chaos never stops. As the world shifted to remote work, real connection and unfiltered learning have never been more urgent. This isn't just a podcast, it's your survival guide. Welcome to the revolution, Your Digital Bullpen. Welcome to the Digital Bullpen. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys? Thanks for having me.
So good.
Yes, thanks for
So excited
joining
to have
us. Yes, very excited. Before we introduce our amazing guest today, I want to make sure and remind you guys, make sure you like, comment, share. If there's anything from this episode that you love, please share it with your community. That way we can continue to grow our digital bullpen.
Yeah.
So to get us started, today we have Jamie Castaneda, and someone that I got a chance to work with years ago, and I'm so glad her and I got a chance to cross paths. But she has over 20 years of recruiting experience. Look how beautiful and young she looks.
Oh, I was like,
right?
She just looks phenomenal. And she's been focusing more on like accounting and finance, and she's managed large teams. She's done direct hire. She's kind of done it all. She and I got a chance to work at Robert Half around the same time. So during that time, she was kind of handling strategic accounts.
Yeah.
But she moved from Colorado once upon a time to Phoenix. And so we're excited to have her join us, share her story, and hopefully take some tidbits away from her experiences. So welcome, Jamie. Thank you so much for making this time.
Welcome.
Of course. I'm so excited. Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Well, we always like to start off with kind of an easy one. How did you get into staffing? Like, how did you even get
Who lied to you? Who lied to you? Who hurt you?
Who sold me the dream of staffing,
Yes,
right?
it basically is how it goes down. So how did you get into it? Kind of tell us that story.
Yeah, well, it's funny because like many others, I had no idea what staffing was. I never knew that you could go to a company and they would help you find a job. I was very confused at what I was getting into, but one of my mentors, one of probably the best leaders I've ever had, her name was Katie, and I worked together. Prior to staffing, my background was all retail. So I was folding jeans, selling clothes, hustling as we do, and she left me one day and I go, "Where are you going?" And she's like, "Don't worry, we'll meet again." And I was like, "Well, I'm going to be stuck folding jeans for the rest of my life." Great. So
very omnibus.
Yes, I was
we'll meet again.
Yes. And so it happened to be 6 months after Katie left our retail, chain of clothing we were working at. She went to work for Robert Half and approached me and said, "I've got this job. I want to talk with you about it. It's a 9 to 5 or, 8 to 5. It's a salary. You'd be doing administrative and clerical staffing." And I was just like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but let's talk. And, I was excited to get out of working the holidays, working on the weekends, and to honestly find like a big girl job. Like it was literally going to be my first office job. And I was like, okay, let's talk about it. So went into the office at Robert Half in Colorado Springs, Colorado, 21 years ago. And they sold me the dream of, interviewing candidates and you have to call people and you find people jobs. And I go, "I'll do it. I'm sold."
Sounds better than folding jeans.
Yeah,
and working weekends.
Yeah. And so it was, I had to take a step back and, being younger back then and just saying, okay, if I'm going to do something different, this is what I'm going to do. And I've done sales before my whole entire life. I said, how hard could this be? And wow, it was very hard and very challenging, but I wouldn't have traded the experience and I wouldn't have traded for the world. So that's how I got into it. It's just through my network, obviously, and I'm working with Katie. And to this day, I've worked for Katie in 2 other companies and have followed her majority of my career.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I love that.
That's
awesome. So it's funny because I came out of retail too. I was selling Wilson's Leather
Oh my
here
gosh,
in
Wilson's
Phoenix. Yeah.
And now you're
Yes.
and look at her now. She's wearing a jean jacket. Like, come
Look
on.
at me.
Leather jacket.
Oh my God. You guys don't even want to know all the crap I bought. It's just so dumb. Nobody stepped in and said, stop buying leather
Stop
shit.
buying that leather, like a leather briefcase or a leather crossbody.
Yes, all of it, all the time. So you are now currently at VACO. So tell us about your role and, tell us a little bit about VACO and kind of what you've been doing there.
Yeah, so here at VACO, I'm the managing director over our direct hire team. So all we do on my side of the house is accounting and finance roles, anything from a senior accountant all the way up to a CFO, and all on a direct hire basis. So it's nice. It's nice to still be, I mean, I've been doing accounting and finance for, 17 years. And so it's nice to be in the realm of, I love direct hire. I love talking to people in the accounting and finance space. So that's what I do here locally. And then we've got 3 other divisions here locally as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Because you said it was IT, right? It's IT
and accounting.
Accounting and finance. And then we have IT.
And IT. Perfect.
That's amazing. So I know that so the 3 of us, which is funny, we all have this connection, mine a little bit shorter than you at Robert Half.
You were parallel too.
Yes,
yeah. So weird.
I mean, but then it's funny, as I was with, the Agilon accounting principals in Denver for 15 years, and I was probably selling against you. We were probably stealing each other's clients if we could. But I guess what are some of the key lessons that you actually learned in growing up in staffing that kind of now they're part of your DNA? It's just these are non-negotiables with my life in staffing.
Yeah. I mean, I will say starting at Robert Half, and I think we've all talked about this, it laid a great foundation for my staffing career. I am very thankful for what I learned and who taught me well. I think the foundations of every day, I come to work wanting to find people jobs and wanting to help clients. And yes, at the end of the day, we are a sales driven, group and industry, but I want to find that person, their next career where they can stay and, pay for their mortgage and grow their family and be able to support their family. And I love helping clients find the right people. And it makes such a difference where I can walk into an organization and I know half of their staff because I've placed them, or I still have people reach out to me that I placed 20 years ago and they're like, Jamie, I'm still here. And I'm like, you are? Bless your heart. But that's great. And so, I mean, that's the biggest lesson is, I'm here to work for other people and I'm here to help people. It's not something, and I think that's my mindset, early on was, I'm just here to make money and get a job. And I had to transition myself as this is my career and this is how I'm going to grow my branding and my name. But that was early on what I discovered.
And which probably made you so successful, because I think people that go into recruiting, there's some recruiters that are very transactional. They're there just to make money and slam people into jobs and process people. And I mean, for the short term, that's great. But then again, your approach, obviously, you have those long-term relationships, and those long-term relationships turn into clients. They turn into referrals. They turn into and even people you don't place, maintaining a positive relationship with them. There's so much. So it sounds like you've cracked the code there, which is fantastic.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the biggest thing. And I always coach, whether it's my newbies or just anyone in general in staffing, is just never turn anyone away or never just not have a conversation with someone. Because like you guys just said, you never know that candidate you can't place. What if they're the next CFO at a company? Or I've had instances where, a gal I can't place or find something on her own. Her husband is now the CEO of ABC company and they call me because they need help. So it's just, I always tell people, Phoenix is big. Colorado and Denver was big. You just never know who you're going to meet. Also, look at us and our separation. But you just never know who you're going to meet, who's going to know you, and who's going to know your name. And that's really big for me. Is my name and my brand is really, really big for me.
And it is individualized. It is, and I think that even if you're a recruiter here, even if you're a corporate recruiter, right, recruiting for a corporate company, the way you develop relationships, even though you work for X company, whatever you do, your brand is you. You are the brand of your desk. You are the CEO of your own desk, so to speak, right? And so if you treat it like that, I think that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, it's always a good reminder. The one thing I find super fascinating about kind of like our three journeys is we both started with the company and spent 15 plus years there. And I think we all have like whether they're feelings or ideas.
Oh my God, it's part of your life. It's almost like your
Right.
identity. It's almost becomes your identity, which is not good. It's not healthy, but
no, it was a huge part of my identity back in the day.
Yes.
Yeah. So it like how did you kind of get out of that transition to, you've worked at a couple different places, went back, I believe, to Ronstadt at one time. How have you I guess, identified the right organization for yourself after kind of having these other, I guess,
after your divorce, you had to go out and start dating again. And how did that go?
Right. Well, it didn't go well. No, I'm just joking.
You're like,
I mean, just as you guys and we've talked about this before, leaving half was hard. Something after 15 years. And, I feel like in different generations, I thought I was going to retire with Robert Half. And I felt, gosh, after 15 years, there's no way I would leave. And it just an opportunity presented itself, and I made the move to Phoenix and made the move with another company. And I don't regret that at all, because I had still worked for an amazing leader, worked for a good company. And I think now, having moved on a couple different times from a couple of other firms, I knew before taking this role with VACO what I wanted. I knew what I wanted to see from a leadership perspective. I knew what I wanted to see in the next 5-10 years that I'm still going to be working, where I wanted to go and who I wanted to work for. And in coming to VACO, one, they've got such a reputable name in the market, but my two managing directors have been in this market for over almost 18, 19 years. And so to have that backbone with a company and for them to just say, come in and we'll let you not do whatever I want, but at the same time, like they trust me. They know I'm not someone new to the industry, new to the game, that they can say, you know what, let's let this girl do her business, thrive. Let's be a support system to her. And that immediately, what attracted me to VACO was owning your business versus just being a number or being a
part of the machine.
Part of the machine. I just am excited that I actually can own this as my personal business and my personal brand to help grow a bigger footprint in Phoenix.
Yes.
I love that. And I think that there's something to be said for, and I know we talked about this when we were prepping, but you'll see a lot of times when somebody has some tenure, they're going to jump around a little bit between some companies. And I think that's perfectly okay. Like, you don't have to worry if you go to one recruiting company and it doesn't work out for you. Right. If you leave, that's okay. Like, that's like I said, you're dating after a long-term relationship and you're like, you know what, this isn't going to be for me. And it's okay. But I think you have to be able to be okay with saying this isn't the right fit for me and move on, because I mean, you will find hopefully the right fit. And to your point, I think it lets you understand a little bit. In retrospect, it's hard to look at your 15 years and figure out, what did I love so much about this, until you get into places where you're like, oh, don't like this.
Right.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And so it lets you kind of paint that picture of what that company is, what that role like.
I agree 100%. I think we've talked about this as well, is that I felt bad. Like, I felt bad for leaving Half. I felt bad for leaving these other companies, because I was like, it's only 2 years, or it was only, almost 3 years. And I was like, is it me? Is it them? Like, I didn't know. But at the same time, like, I agree with you. I had to find what excites me, what made me get up every day to want to go to these jobs. And I just, some of those very good organizations, I thank them for the opportunity, and I learned also different things from them. And one job was fully remote. I've also understood I am not a fully remote person. Like, I have to be meeting with people face to face with my team at some point, during the week. And so, I think I felt horrible and I felt bad, because I think we're embodied, our generation as well, is to stay at a company for 5, 10, 15, however long years. So as I was trying to find the new place for me, which is now VACO, I had to take that away and say, Jamie, you're okay. They're not looking this as a bad thing on your resume. You're making it worse than it seems. And just let it go. And if things don't, like you said with dating, if things don't work out, we just walk away and try something else.
It's okay. There's a lot of fish in the pond. I don't know, the sea. But what's interesting is you make me think about something we also talked about, is like having that feeling of imposter syndrome, especially when you're so successful, and then you try a few things, and it's not that you weren't successful, the relationship wasn't successful between you and the
like the environment.
And you wonder, and it's sometimes you question, like, and we still, I mean, I still talk about how, lovely John Marshall would talk about, I'm like, do you ever question, like, he was a president of, the Deco Group's USA, and I'm like, do you ever like worry or question that you're not going to do a good job? He goes, oh my God, every day. And I'm like, it's that, but I think that there's something to be said for, there's a healthy, like dose of imposter syndrome having it, because I think what that means is you are retrospective and looking at yourself, and you're like, it's okay to question yourself, because if you don't question what you're doing, we've all had leaders that don't see who they are and how they lead, and they just think they're the best. So I think that there's a level of somewhat healthy of that little bit of imposter syndrome.
Yes.
And I think it's good for everyone to feel that way. Like there are times where sometimes I'm like, dude, am I so good at this? And my poor husband's like, yes, you just give yourself some grace. And I think that's the thing, is giving yourself grace. Coming from a company where, 15 years in also one market, now going to a different market. Like I had to ease up on myself a little bit and say, Jamie, calm down, relax. It will happen. And you're doing the right things that it will follow. And so I definitely feel like people get that all the time.
I love it.
Well, and something you just mentioned is moving from like one market, right? Being in Colorado for 15 years, and you made that transition to come out to Phoenix. Talk to us about some of those challenges, or maybe even some of those surprises that you had transitioning, market to market.
Besides the summers.
No one prepped me for those summers, but I just kind of had to start all over again. And that's the biggest thing. It's very humbling. I will say that's the word. It was so humbling to come to a new market where in Colorado, everyone knew me. Everyone knew I was with Robert Half. Everyone knew what I sponsored. I probably was involved in 3 to 4 networking groups. My family is also born and raised in Colorado. So like you could also not go down the street not knowing who me and my family were. So coming to a brand new market, the challenges were hard. It was the name recognition. It was the branding. It was, I'm not new. I'm just new to your market. And so it was getting people to honestly meet with me, show them that even though I'm newer to, let's say, the previous companies I worked for, I'm not new to the game. I know staffing. I know what you want. I know the caliber of candidates. I know at the end of the day, if I'm not going to be a good resource for you too, I'll tell you. And so it was very humbling, and it was challenging in the beginning. And then I think one thing I wish I would have leveraged more when I moved here was getting involved more as far as networking groups and just building my kind of cohort of people quicker. Is I didn't do that. I think I waited a little bit. I was doing more VP level stuff where I wasn't involved in the day-to-day transactions of staffing, and then I went to a firm that was fully remote, and I did national sales. And so I completely lost a lot of contacts in Arizona. So I definitely, I commend VACO because they give me the opportunity to be involved with whatever I want. And they encourage me to go get on a board, go volunteer, go do this. And I wish I could have done that when I moved here.
Yeah. What are you involved in now?
So I'm part of Alpha, which is the Association for Latino Professionals. I'm also part of CFMA and then FBI. And so, and then I just went to an event last week for IMA, which I was part of.
Good old IMA.
Good old IMA. They remember, like these folks potentially remembered me from Colorado, and I was like, oh my gosh. So it's just again getting out there more to brand yourself personally and professionally. I have to do more.
And what's interesting is you moved here right when COVID was happening, right? So and so obviously things changed very drastically. And so and staffing's changed. So I guess over the last 20 some odd years you've been in the game, what are some of the biggest changes and shifts you've noticed from when you started to pre-COVID, post-COVID, and then maybe maybe in how you interact with your candidates and clients as well?
Yeah. I think the biggest shift that I've noticed, and both of you guys have noticed, no one answers their phone anymore. It is.
I won't even answer if my mom calls. I text her back. What do you want?
It is very hard. Back in the day, it would be you're picking up the phone and calling and calling and calling, whether it's candidates or clients. And now it's we're texting candidates. We're
Yes.
sometimes clients want to text me. Sometimes it's all an email conversation. And again, back in the day, I'm not used to that. And so
Yes.
after COVID, it was hard for me to adjust to clients didn't want to meet with me. Clients didn't want, granted, even if they're hybrid, virtually, it's hard. It's hard to develop a relationship virtually. So those were the biggest things, is just realizing that I had to change my tactics. I had to change my strategy. And whether it's you're never in the office, and so if we're just going to meet virtually once a month just to kind of talk and connect, great. And then whatever form of communication works for you, I then had to adjust to that. So if you wanted to just text me, I guess you're going to text me. If you just wanted to email me, you emailed me. So that's like the biggest thing. I think after COVID, I've had to take a step back and be like, people aren't at their phones anymore. So it's hard to sell. It's hard to even try to get a meeting. It's hard to just, get business because no one's at their phone anymore.
You have to definitely be more strategic and tactical, I think. And it's like, I remember, I would even like leverage my like Facebook and my social medias. I'm like, oh my God, you know this person. I mean, it's all word of mouth and networking and introductions at this point.
Yeah. So that's the biggest change, I think, for me. And then even on the networking side, during COVID, it was all virtual, and I couldn't connect with some of these people virtually with 50 people on a screen. I was like, this isn't going to work. So
especially when we've been built to like work on relationships, and even what you're talking about where people just like text. I literally like NPC candidates via text to these heavy civil, managers, and they'll either respond or not respond, but I know they're getting them because they're always like their phones are there, right?
Yeah.
And I remember being in sales, and it was like a new thing, like start getting, the manager's cell phone numbers so that we can bypass the main. And it was just like,
I remember people be like, I'm never going to text my client, and now it's they're like, would you just text me?
Yeah, exactly. Just text. It's fine.
I love it.
So it's like, there's been changes in some of like how we communicate. What are your thoughts around like maybe the differences within like the generational workforce? How have you seen that play in staffing, and how do you feel recruiters need to kind of adapt to that?
I mean, I feel like it's a very big change. I also think companies have to change their mindset. I mean, it's no joke that back in the day, we would work from 7:30 in the morning till 7:00 at night. And
always in the office.
Always in the office. I was telling my team here how I used to fill same day temp jobs, and their mind was like, you did what? Clients would call us at 7:30 and ask for a temp to be there by 10 o'clock in the morning. And so I think those days are gone. Like companies cannot ask people to work 7:30 to 7:00 anymore. Like it's just it's not there. So I think generation wise, people want more of that work-life balance. People want more to work remotely or more hybrid because at the end of the day, are they more productive? Are they still getting their stuff done? But they can go work out in the morning, or they can leave early to go walk their dog. And I think that is when I'm speaking to folks and just also noticing when we're interviewing candidates, a different generation, they care about base and salary and bonus, but they want to know what's the hybrid schedule, what are some other benefits that the company offers, because they're thinking, how am I going to be able to live my day to day? How am I able to do that? So, I mean, it's very, very different from 20 years ago.
And I think that's huge because, there's so many companies that are doing like, they went 100% remote, and now they're doing all back in the office 5 days a week. And I just I disagree with that intentionally, because I think that there's a level of lack of trust with those organizations. But I think there's something to be said.
Or lack of leadership within
some people. I know people that only have to go in 3 days a week, but they'll go in 4 or 5 sometimes because they want to. And I think that, to your point, like we don't need to have somebody in the office from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. But that does not mean your recruiter's not working at 7 a.m. Because if they're a good recruiter, I get calls at night and I'm because a candidate or this, right? So we're always working the good ones. So I think that there's that level of accountability and trust that you build in somebody.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And I think it's just telling also, recruiters that join my team or just that I managed in the past, like you can't think of this as an 8 to 5 job. I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, any successful recruiter in staffing doesn't work 8 to 5. If they do, I would love their phone number and they can
And
call me.
how do they do it? Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, a coworker of mine and I just met a client yesterday, and on our meeting, he goes, Jamie, you don't have to respond to me on a Sunday. And I go, but I did, because that's just how I'm wired, because you asked for something, I got you something.
I wanted to get it done.
I was like, I just wanted to get it done. And also I'm sitting here watching basketball, so I might as well just do that while I'm watching basketball. So I mean, it's just kind of telling also what you put into it, you're going to get a lot from it. And I think that's also where a lot of different generations don't understand that, is if you do put the extra effort, if you do go the extra mile, you're going to make placements, you're going to find people jobs, you're going to gain more clients. But if you're doing the bare minimum, then that's another conversation.
I was just talking to somebody.
Go for it, Paul.
I was just talking about somebody about sense of urgency and how that is like, it is in our DNA as recruiters. I'm like, I need to get it done now. I can't wait. Like, it's just, that's why we have to close down our emails sometimes for an hour or two to do a call block, because I will answer all of them. But I think that's something that sometimes people nowadays, like the new hires, you have to teach that to them, that sense of urgency. We can't just, we have to be on top of things.
Right. It's very different too. The sense of urgency isn't there anymore. The follow-up skills, the normal day-to-day things that you're like, well, why wouldn't you do this? Or why wouldn't you send a thank you? Like thank you notes, like thank you emails. And I think that this dates me. I still have thank you cards, physical thank you cards in my desk that I will send a handwritten note. And I've always it makes a different connection for me. If you get a handwritten note from me to your office, granted, you might not be in your office 2 days a week and you might not get the card for a couple of weeks, but it is very different versus an email that's 2 lines, that might make a difference.
Well, and I think that's the difference too. Like, yes, maybe we grew up in a time in staffing where it was really hardcore. You had to be there, 7 to 7 or whatever you felt was right. But those were the things that were like instilled in us. Those were some of the activities that we were, measured up against. And so maybe initially we did it out of like, we got to do it because this is the job.
We get fired.
We were scared.
But out of like, scare tactics, but you actually are like, no, like I am a true believer. Like if you're a candidate, send a thank you email. If you can send a thank you note, even better. But there's people that just like don't believe that that's a real thing. And I think even more so now, it probably means that much more because people don't do some of those simple ways of like connecting. Like, and yes, it's old school and I mean, absolutely, but I still feel like that it creates that personal touch, and it just kind of reminds you, like, oh, that was really nice, that was
right.
Like,
but it's everything comes back. Bell bottoms came back. Old school might be coming back again. You never know.
It'd be great. Some of that stuff would be great. Not the bell bottoms. I wasn't a huge fan of that.
Mark my words, they're coming. But I guess
they're already here.
They are here. I cannot wear those.
Well, thinking about like, obviously like old school and some of the stuff that we've learned in our life, like you said that you had great leaders, and obviously I think Katie, you said her name was, and speaking of that, like what would be, if you had to tell, like looking back at your career and saying this was super impactful leadership advice that either I received, and maybe it's something you give as a leader too, like what is the best piece of leadership advice that you pay it forward?
I think one of the biggest things that I learned is when someone told me once was people buy from people who they like and they trust. And not to think of sales as just, obviously we talked about it, transactional, or you have to hit a number because my boss is going to yell at me at the end of the week if I don't hit my connects. It's people buy from who they like, and they want to think of you as a staffing partner or an expert, and someone just business wise that they could go to and say, hey, I've got this problem. How would you help? Versus just a voice of a voicemail, or one of my other coworkers. Don't be thought of like the girl that just brings cookies or the one that just brings bagels. Like, think you want to be a trusted staffing partner. And that was one of the best leadership advice that I got from someone that just said, slow down and think about when you're meeting these CFOs, CEOs, HR managers, or whatever it may be, like, are they thinking of you as someone they trust and that they're getting value from your relationship? And it made me take a step back, because some of the meetings early in my career, I was just like, hi, how are you? Let me help you. Call me. And it was, I was out, and it wasn't really like thorough, or I didn't take the time to know them or their family, or I would never notice on their office, they're a big Denver Broncos fan. And then to reference that the next time, like, it just, those little things I didn't do in the beginning of my career because no one told me. But then when my boss was like, think of this as a long-term relationship, and people buy from people who they like. And I was like, my mindset changed.
That's what I used to tell people in Denver. I remember I'd be like, listen, I don't want you to go on new business meetings. I want you to go out and make 15 friends this week. And that's like, just go make a friend. Go make a friend. Because how do you make a friend? That changes the identity of what you're doing. And you made me think about, like, sometimes when a client would be like, well, you're one of our vendors. And when I heard that word, I'm like, ew, like, call me a vendor, like, and that's why I don't use that term. I'm like, even if they're like, well, one of your vendors, I'm like, you're one of our partners. Like, it's a partnership, not a vendor. Like,
you're not a vendor.
There's a vending machine, and then there's partners, right? Like, what about bad advice? Anything that maybe you're like, oh my God, that was the worst advice I ever got?
Just probably some bad advice I ever got was just to wing it. So just wing, whether it was like client meetings or just wing your day, not have a plan. Like someone I used to work with would just be like, just wing it, just go about your day and just wing it. And I'd be like, I have to plan my day. I have to plan client meetings. I have to plan candidate meetings. Like, he's like, just wing it, you'll be fine. And to this day, he was very successful. But at the same time, it doesn't work for everyone. And I think when you come prepared to a meeting with the CFO, it is very different versus maybe winging a one-off conversation, meeting someone in the hallway. Like, that's very different. And so I feel like that was probably the worst advice. And I remember going back and trying to prepare for a meeting. I was like, how do I just wing this? Like, I don't know what they do. I don't know what the size of their revenue is. I don't even understand what their industry is. To this day, I'll never do that. I'll never wing something.
Sounds like he was a good producer, but a bad trainer.
Great producer, bad trainer.
Yes. Oh my God.
Well, and with so many like ups and downs in recruiting and staffing, right? Like, what are maybe some of the habits or practices that have helped you stay resilient in the industry? Because there is a lot of burnout with this industry, and people will get really committed. They'll maybe work the 7 to 7, whether they're in the office or not, but you can get really burned out because there tends to be more lows than highs in recruiting, and you probably get more no's in a day than like any average person does, at least if when you're thinking about sales, right? So how do you maintain that resiliency?
I think the biggest thing for me is I'm very good at time management. I will always tell people, like, you have to come into your day planned with what you're getting done, so that also then the day you can see, was I successful today? Or was my goal to do X? Did I accomplish that goal? And it's funny when I see newer folks in the industry, again, just wing it or don't have a plan for their day. And I'm always like, why? Let me pull beside you and let's figure out your plan. I still, after 21 years of doing this, I have to plan out every single day. I have to time block. And also, when you said about like the burnout, I block off time to go walk. I time off time to work out. I block off time to, even if I'm very close with my father, if it's time to call my dad for 30 minutes just to check in on him, like, it is on my calendar religiously, because if you don't, you're going to keep working and you're going to keep making the sales calls and you're going to keep interviewing. And then, it's 6:00 at night and you've got nothing accomplished because you didn't plan your day. And so I think that is the biggest thing is time management, blocking off your calendar, and also blocking off the personal side of your calendar. Like, if you need to go walk and it takes you 30 minutes to do a mile, go block it off on your calendar.
I love that. And
it's
I think
simple advice, but sound
what is it? Right. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
You plan to fail.
Come on. Seriously. It sounds cheesy, but it's true. I guess so. I love that. And I think that thinking of those type of things and like kind of like where you're at today and stuff you wish you would have known, right? Like, what would you say to like either new recruiters coming into the industry or maybe like some piece of advice you would give year one Jamie at, Robert Half? Like, what would you say? What would be those advice?
Gosh, I would say don't wear what I wore 20 years ago as far as some of those,
Was
some
it
of those
leather?
outfit choices. No, it wasn't Wilson's leather. But the suit options I had back in the day were very interesting. If you wore those today, they'd probably be like, "What are you wearing?" And I remember going into offices and they thought we were auditing them because we just looked so black suit, white shirt, But I think the biggest advice I would say to new recruiters is build your network soon as far as networking groups, but find a mentor, like find someone in your office that you can partner with and say like, hey, I know you might not be my direct boss. I know you've been here X amount of years, but you're very successful. Like, can you help me with this? Or what have you done to ramp up on this? And I think that is something I wish I did. I mean, obviously going to my leaders, yes, I watched them, but I never really ask them for more. I never just said, gosh, I see that you're killing it on a scorecard. How do I do that? I think just getting a mentor and just being a sponge and open to feedback. That is one thing that it's hard. It's hard to take feedback, whether it's good or bad, but being able to roll with the punches and say, hey, what you're doing right now for some reason isn't producing results. Let's try to tweak it. Let's see if you could do this. And we get a lot of, people in general, they don't want to hear feedback. You never want to hear you're doing something bad. But I think for anyone new in the industry, listen to your peers, listen to your managers and be open to change. And even if you've been in the industry for a year, what you've done before might not work now. And that's something for me that I'm trying to still adjust to is my tactics 20 years ago might not work today.
No.
And so having to change up your game a little bit is really good.
Staying fresh with it. Cause I think it gets old for yourself, like in that sense, but I think it also helps with, engaging with people just in general. Like people want to be engaged differently these days. It's not, one of my favorite questions to ask when I'm like just cold calling people is, you kind of get through the basics, right? And it's like, I'm always just curious because I'm in recruiting, like, how the heck did you get into construction? And that blows the door open with these people. Because now that probably wouldn't work on a day-to-day basis, like what I used to do. But now it's like these construction people just love talking about like, oh, well, my grandpa, like he had his own construction. And you're just like, like you get like that in-depth understanding of like why they're in that field. And but it took me months to kind of figure out what that could possibly look like to like come from accounting, finance, HR to like construction professionals.
Right.
It's a transition and what worked before, will help, but you've got to like figure it out with the people, your audience,
Yep.
That's what I remember that JD said. And she always said, like, be curious. Like you can go in with a checklist in an interview and you just need to check this off, but that's not being curious. That's being I don't know what that is. That's processing, right?
Yeah.
And I said, curious means like, to Mirna's point, how did you get here? Tell me more about that. Why do you love that? Like that curiosity, one, it makes your job more fun, right? Because you're like learning. And then two, I think it impacts people differently. I love it.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, Jamie, we are getting very close to wrapping this up, but we want to give you an opportunity to maybe share with our community, what's any like hiring needs right now that VACO is looking for right now, whether on your team or maybe any hot roles that you've got that you feel, our community could learn from.
Yeah, as far as internally, we're always looking for folks with any type of like executive recruiting background in accounting and finance, any business development, specifically in accounting and finance. And then just to, the Phoenix metro area right now, it seems the number 1 to 2 jobs we're staffing are more of those senior accountant roles, controller opportunities. And so I think that if you are looking for work in those 2 areas, we'd love to be a resource and help. And just even if we can't find you something today, I think that the market's picking back up, which is great. we're seeing a
Yes.
lot of new openings come through. So
Oh,
VACO would
so
love
good
to be
to
a
hear.
resource.
That is good to hear.
That is
I
just
love it.
beyond great news, beyond great
Yes.
news to just kind of start seeing some of that shifting. Well, let's
Yes.
get right into our fast forward. Let's get to know Jamie a little bit on a personal level. We have not shared the questions with
Oh
you.
gosh, that makes me nervous.
Yeah, but they're easy. They're easy. You'll like them. So I'll go with the first one. What's a show you can't stop binge watching right now?
Okay.
I need a new show to watch.
It's on
Really selfish.
Hulu.
This is a selfish question.
Hulu. So it's on Hulu. It's called Paradise. Have you guys?
I'm watching it.
I'm obsessed with it.
Yes.
Obsessed. It has
And
the guy, and I'm so bad with like people's name, but it has the guy from This Is Us in it.
Sterling Brown, I think is his
Thank
name.
you.
Fabulous
Love
actor. I am on my edge of my seat
Yes.
watching this show.
A little close to home these days, but
Yes.
still good.
Yeah. But it's
a little
also
different.
now that it's so everyone's watching it. So now again on social media, people are predicting outcomes of it. And now
Yes.
I'm also going down a rabbit hole of outcomes of the show.
I love it. I love
But
it.
you guys would love
That's
it.
amazing.
Paul, you have to watch it.
I will.
Yes.
I definitely. Well, I'm just now finishing what am I watching right now? I can't even remember, but I'm totally. I'll tell you about it later. But yeah, apparently it's super impactful. I don't know why.
Yeah,
Anyway,
he's engulfed in this show.
I am
Yeah.
engulfed in it. Oh my god, I can't remember the name
Now
of
it's gonna bother him. He's gonna think
I know.
is.
You'll have to
I'm
let
not
us know
gonna-
because I want to know. I want to know.
You know when you're like, yeah.
It's not like the Dunes. You're reading the books for the.
No. It's the one where he's the he's money laundering for the mobs. It was back in. I'll remember it. God.
Ozark.
Yes.
Yes, we
Ozark,
talked
yes.
about this. Yes.
That's
so
a great
good.
show.
I don't have time for
Such a
anything
good
else.
one.
Like we watch whatever's the new, and then I go right back to that, and I have to tell myself to stop so I can sleep. Okay,
It's such a good one.
So speaking of like binge watching, what's I don't know, like a non-work related hobby or something that you do at the end of the day to kind of just de-stress that takes your mind off of the world of staffing? Because we all need distractions.
I would say I love to walk. Like I am in the Scottsdale area. I've got a very nice little trail and me and my dogs go for a walk, but just even just getting out, my husband and I go walk for about an hour just to talk, like decompress, talk about our day, and then we don't talk about it again. So it's like
awesome.
our time to get some sunshine, to move our bodies, and then we don't talk about work the rest of the day.
Oh, it was windy today on my walk. I don't know if you guys saw me. I'm kind of like irritated. It's just allergies. I'm like, it's like the sacrifice. Well, I know you got 2 pups. Tell us about your little pups at home.
Oh yes, so I have 2 dogs. I have Winston and Parker. Winston is a mini schnauzer, and he is the grumpiest old dog that if you guys see his picture, just mean face, but sweetest thing. And then Parker is my baby. He's a cockapoo. And so he just is very lovey, happy, just is attached to my hip 24/7. So we've got 2 dogs at home.
Oh, I love that. And you're right. He has definitely like a grumpy little face.
Yeah.
It's just so
old man. He's my old man, I say.
Yes, I love it.
So what's your soundtrack right now? What's like 1 or 2 songs that you're like, oh, this is my repeat right now?
Oh, that's a good one.
Don't say espresso. That one's done.
And
what is that?
No. Yeah, but we're not. No. So I'm
glad I don't know about it.
I am still like a 90s, 2000s R&B hip hop person. So anything within that genre, like whether it's like, it just gets me. My husband's always like, can you change your playlist? We are not in that area anymore, time of frame anymore, but anything 2000s, anything like that will get me motivated, get me going. I wish I'm honestly shocked I can't think of one single song, but anything 2000s, hip hop, R&B will get me going.
You give me some TLC.
Bone Thugs and Harmony fan?
Oh my gosh, yeah, we were just talking about that.
I'm such a huge fan of them.
Honestly,
I think I saw that they're like doing a new record, but I haven't really looked into it. I gotta see.
You're aging us.
Yes, you are aging us.
I've been a Bone Thug fan since I was like in 6th grade.
Oh my gosh.
You're a little thug. Mirna's a little thug. That's why.
Well, there was a time where I was going, they come to Phoenix often enough where I would go almost every year. And it's like, I knew what was happening. I knew the playlist. but I just had to go regardless.
You're so funny. I love it. I love it.
All right, last question. What is something you are super grateful for in your life?
Well, first and foremost, probably my husband. Very
Yes.
grateful
Good answer.
for
Good
him.
answer.
Yep. We're about to hit our 1-year wedding anniversary next month.
Oh, yay!
And I think second, my father, Mirna has seen a lot of my social media. My father is my best friend. He has also been my cheerleader from day one in staffing, in my staffing career. Like he just said, Jamie, don't ever mess this job up. Like whatever you do. I mean, he has known my bosses. My bosses came to my first wedding before. It's my second wedding, marriage, but he is very ingrained in my staffing career, and he is my number one cheerleader on you got to just keep going and going and going. And then just at the end of the day, the people I work with, I mean, I couldn't be more happy to be with an organization that like we care about each other. We're here to win with each other versus fighting against each other. And that's one thing I just I appreciate, I value, and they give me the tools to be successful and let me just run my own thing.
Yeah. Makes it for a pretty good life. I love that, Jamie.
Well, I am super grateful for you, Jamie, and being on our wonderful podcast today. I had so much fun.
I loved it.
Same. Well,
and I'm so glad you guys like connected because like we knew of each other, and I know Jamie
I bet your boss
in contact.
Yeah.
Well, I
it's
tell
like
you
a
what,
very small, weird world in staffing.
Well, it is. And I'm
is.
so
You got
excited
to follow
to see
the train of everyone. So
well, I'm excited to see what you do with VACO, and I know that you're going to continue to make a positive impact. And it sounds like you have all the right moves going on.
Yes.
So keep it up, and I can't wait to talk to you again. Have a fantastic day, Jamie.
Yes, wishing you the best, Jamie. Thank you. Have a great day.